So I'm conscious of time and the need to let everybody get back to the day jobs. But before I let everybody go, I thought it would be perhaps just helpful to close by inviting everybody to just focus on what they think the key takeaways for lenders in relation to the Act should be. Who'd like to go first?
I'll go first. Happy to do that. For me, there's first, I think, understanding what an HRB is, what a higher risk building is. We've spoken about how the Act covers, of course, a broad range of aspects of the building in industry. The most significant change since the Building Act in 1984, but a very important part of that in relation to extensive extra obligations is the HRB. Do you have an HRB or not? I think understanding that in the design and construct phase and in occupation phase is really crucial. The second point is really going back to what we said earlier about whether this is just about cladding. It isn't. It's very much wider than that. It goes well beyond, even in the realm of defects to buildings, just cladding, fire and structural safety as well. And I think finally then remediation. If you're thinking of becoming involved with a potential borrower or are involved with a borrower who has remediation obligations to undertake, those can be significant. There is significant risk involved, heightened, particularly if the borrower hasn't undertaken them yet and should have done so. So that's also a very important thing to think about.
Thanks, Simon. My key takeaway is probably that lenders need to be finding out what their borrowers are doing. For new loans, what does the developer or the buyer have actually available to them as their golden thread pack? And for existing borrowers, what steps are they actually taking to satisfy regulations for those buildings that are already subject to a charge?
Yeah, I think my takeaway is that this is really hard and complicated, and I think care has to be taken to really get into understanding the subject matter of the particular building that you're dealing with, and whether or not the Act applies and to what extent it applies, so that you're then able to really sculpt your facilities agreement to include all the necessary protections to keep the lender safe, without being so broad brush in your drafting and approach that you're putting in place provisions that aren't relevant or which are unduly onerous and difficult for a lender, for a borrower to be able to comply with. And that really, as I say, sort of comes down to understanding whether you're dealing with an HRB, what golden thread information there is, making sure that you're getting the right sort of input and diligence to be able to pull out whether or not the technical and the legal provisions of the golden thread information is being complied with.
Yeah, they're all really good points. And I think the most important one for me is that this is a substantial, complex and evolving area of law. As we've said throughout, we're still awaiting secondary legislation which will confirm further detail about the requirements of the Act. And there's virtually no case law in this area at the moment, so it's very difficult to predict how the courts and tribunal will deal with building safety issues. As the requirements ramp up as the year goes on, it's going to be even more important to keep up to date with the changes. And one way of doing this is visiting our Building Safety Hub on the Womble Dickinson website. If you do have any other questions, please do get in touch with us.
Well, I'd like to just take a moment to thank Simon and Sarah and Joe for their time today in having this really, what I have found, a very helpful discussion, and I hope you at home have found it interesting and useful too. As Sarah has said, if you do have any follow-on questions from anything that we've talked about today, please do get in touch with any one of us. We would be only too happy to help you. And but for the meantime, I'd like to thank everybody again. Thank you for your time, and look forward to speaking with you again in the future. Thank you.